This is the World Innovators Podcast with your host, Donna Peterson.
Hi, my name is Donna Peterson, and you are listening to the World Innovators Podcast. Last week, I was doing a lot of research work in the biotechnology pharmaceutical space. And I came across two statistics that I have to share because they kind of blew me out of the water, the magnitude of them. The first one is Global Market Insight reports that the global biotechnology market size is projected to surpass $775 billion by 2025. The second one was from Global Newswire reports that the global pharmaceutical manufacturing market is to grow from $357 billion to $1,173 billion by 2030. So why I'm bringing this up is because the demand in the biotech pharmaceutical space is going to grow. And any company that is offering a product or service in that space is looking for quality, direct marketing options that they can use to market their products and services. And some people might say, oh, let's just go to a large compiled file, but you need to reach files that can really pinpoint your target audience by title and by industry, by technologies used, even by size, revenue. And so I brought back a guest of mine, Amy Miller from Pharma, and I wanted to talk with her today about the biopharmaceutical space. Good morning, Amy. Thank you for coming back on.
Oh, good morning. My pleasure, Donna.
Good. I know that Pharma is very big in the biopharmaceutical space, and I wanted to talk to you about how many entities Pharma has in that sector.
Yeah, absolutely. Informa as a global company has been in the biopharmaceutical space even before it was, a space, even before it was hot to be in. And Informa in and of itself operates predominantly in two sides of the media world, conferences, virtual events, in-person events, and publishing. So in the vertical market of biopharmaceutical, we're in both of those places. So we have the Connect Life Sciences conferences, which is at the moment, as COVID is starting to finally loosen up and hopefully go away, we are getting back to some face-to-face, predominantly hybrid at the moment, but that's our, virtual face-to-face event space in the pharmaceutical market. And then we have some of our other ones, which are Script, Pink Sheet, In Vivo, that sit in our pharmaceutical intelligence space, which are publications. So, we really sit in both sides of the market, or the media market.
And do all of those, do you have representation worldwide, or are they just US?
We're definitely global. The conference team, we actually have offices, physical space in the US, the UK, Germany, Singapore, South Africa, Australia, and Brazil. So just even actual physical conference offices, which then tend to do conferences within that region, but with global reach. Right. So you could be from the Netherlands and attend one in Boston, or you could be from Boston and attend one in Singapore. So they are operated globally. We do a lot, in APAC, we do a lot all over Europe, and, of course, the US, and even, Latin and South America. From the publishing side, we have offices in the US, Europe, APAC. I don't believe we have a South American office at this point, but then our readership is global, right? So it's the worldwide readership, Pink Sheet, all of them, they're written in English so that any marketing opportunity that you have can be presented in English, but the subscriber base is global.
Yeah. And so then what would you say are your 5 largest countries?
It's funny you ask. I actually, when you gave me a little bit of a cheat sheet on what we'd be chatting about today, I had to look it up.
Yeah.
Immediately, I knew that the US and the UK were the 2 top, right? After that, and let me take a quick peek. It's actually Germany,
Okay.
Japan,
Mhm.
India, and France. So those were which actually surprised me. I didn't expect 2 in APAC to be on that, in the top 5. I expected 1. I figured
Right.
India, as we know, there's a lot of biopharmaceutical manufacturing, there's a lot of call center space, customer service space within the Indian region, but I didn't expect Japan to be quite as high in the list as it was.
Right. I would have thought India would have been higher than Japan. And
Yeah.
Right. So that surprises me also. But it is worldwide. We're all trying
Totally.
to, reach people all over the world. And it has to help that you have offices all over the world to help with the data and getting the right people for the conferences and for the magazine.
Well, and Informa has always tried to present unbiased forums, right? So, within our conference space, Informa does not speak. We're not speakers, we're not presenters. It really, there's a production person within the conference itself who goes out and tries to find the hottest topics within that general area, whatever the conference focus is. And then we look for experts, in that area. So, we're getting the pharmaceutical companies, the contract manufacturing companies, that we're not speaking. It's completely non-commercial, and 100% industry information being presented by industry leaders, peer reviewed. We allow abstracts, to be submitted, posters to be submitted at the conferences. So it really is all about the industry and pulling together the top industry experts, the key players, and at any one given conference, if you were to walk through and not be in the biopharm space, you have absolutely no idea what they're talking about, right? I've started to pick up on some key terms, but it's actually kind of funny. You're at a cocktail party when over here they're talking about gene splicing, and then, over here they're talking about bioassay development, or, it really is fascinating. It really is fascinating. And we have become one of the gold standards in pulling these people together all in one place, both on the conference side as well as on the publishing side. As you and I have talked about, we have databases that track clinical trial development at all phases and who's looking for clinical trial participants. And, that's completely non-commercial. That's literally what's happening in that industry. We were tracking some of the COVID, clinical trials by the ones that came out with vaccines within that database.
And I think that's something, we should point out to people, that we will go in and dive in to find a specific target area. It's not going to be a huge market.
No, correct.
You and I've done things where it would be 2,000 or 3,000 records, but they are specific for that specific area we're trying to target.
Right. So, and I think that's inherent of biopharm in general. When you go out in finance or telecoms, right? I think that the topic areas are much broader. When you go out in finance and you say, I want everyone interested in, investing in one particular, avenue or what have you, it is a very large audience. You're picking portfolio managers across a very large quantity of companies. In pharma, I think the quantity of companies can be quite large, and there are some that are big. There's some, if
depending on the area.
Exactly. But there's some that are quite niche, right? Like people working in, one specific area of development in the brain, or one specific gene, or, and I'm not going to, try to go too far into it, because like I said, it's
you're not a scientist.
I have learned it, but yeah, I am certainly not a scientist. So, with that, I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. So,
you're a doozy. Who is it? Dewey Hauser? Who is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It was funny. I was on a call the other day and it was a marketing meeting and someone was talking about gene regulation therapy. And I started to talk to them about it. I'm like, I should not be talking about this. I am not an expert in that field, but I've done enough with, in this biopharma space that I knew what they were talking about.
Right. And it's fascinating. It truly, even as a layperson, right? It's fascinating. It is a fascinating industry. And like you said at the beginning, massive, like absolutely huge. And, everybody, not to be too commercial, but it's not that you want a piece of it, but if you're contributing to that industry, sometimes the size of it makes it even more difficult to tap in.
Yes. Yeah.
And you need the partners and the sources to be able to do that.
Right. And some people say, oh, we'll just hit all pharmaceutical manufacturers. And you know what? Just like I've always said, and you and I've talked about it. Yeah, we could go out to 10,000 people, but if only 2,000 of those people are really interested in what you have to offer, one, don't waste your marketing dollars. And as a list owner, you don't want to rent them the 10,000 because they're not going to get the responses they want.
Correct.
So then they'll say they're not happy with you and your list, but it has nothing to do with you and your list. It has.
No, absolutely. And nowadays, whether it's because of COVID, as well as the whole world turning more digital, as well as just where we're going technologically as a world.
Right.
I think this specificity, the nurturing, it all kind of gets rolled in together, and you're better off, hitting your target. Not just hitting, a massive spray of, because people don't have time, they don't have time to read everything they're getting. So the more specific that you can get to that individual, I think the more engagement you're going to get.
And I think that's why you're also seeing increase in the popularity of direct marketing and direct marketing channels. Because people realize it has to be a direct message to an individual that is definitely interested in what you have to offer. And if you're able to find a quality list that you can target those people, like you said, you can send them maybe a product information sheet, but you could send them also educational information showing that you really care about them and you understand their industry.
Right.
And you create that relationship, which then, it might lead to a sale down the road. And if it does, that's a customer of yours for life.
Right.
Because they understand, you're not just selling an HPLC machine, you understand their specific niche and what they're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's imperative. So now with your direct, I know you have email. Do you also have the phone and postal side?
We definitely have postal across all platforms and all media that we have. Phone, we have some and we don't have some, and I'll tell you why. We have phone on the list where I feel comfortable allowing someone else to have access to that phone. And I don't mean really from a compliance standpoint, because in Pharma, because we use these lists ourselves, compliance is second nature.
I just want to interrupt you for a minute. I think you have to understand that not always a direct marketing list is with the actual list owner.
Right.
And like you just said, and because Informa holds their own data in-house, you keep it as clean as possible because otherwise you're using it. And if you don't keep it clean, Informa would be wasting money.
Exactly. It's what we use to market.
Yeah.
And it is our buyers, right? It's the people attending the conference. So of course we need all their information correctly. It's going to go on their badge.
Yes.
It's, the subscriber is paying, I believe script is, depending on the type of subscription that you get, anywhere from 3,000 on up.
Wow.
We don't want to get that information incorrect, right? We want to have their information right on their subscription. It's a high price product.
And you want to make sure you send the individual the right information.
Absolutely. So, I know you wanted to touch on this a little bit later, but just to cover a little bit of the specifics, we let people opt in and out on a variety of different levels. It's not even just yes or no 100%. It's on the brand, the market, the third party, we really let people custom tell us what information they want to get. And because of that, our opt-out rates are very low. Our engagement rates are very high because people are happy. They know we're compliant. They know that we got their information a certain way, and we know that at any point they don't want to receive anything, we're taking them off the list.
Right.
Because we're, like you said, we're using this data for everything that we do.
But because you're supplying them the information that they want to receive,
Absolutely,
additional information that helps them do their job, they do want to get it, and they will open it up. And
Yep.
I think, when Pharma is good at that, you're not going to rent your list out to every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there. It has to be something to these people, and that's why you rent it to them.
Yeah, absolutely. So phone numbers, what I mean, as opposed to compliance, is if we utilize phone numbers so that I know those phone numbers are clean, then I feel comfortable renting them out to someone else. You know me, and the last thing I would want to do is provide someone with data that I didn't know was being used by my own organization and at a quality standard of what I like to provide. So some of them have phones, some of them don't. Yeah. And then you and I have also worked a little bit on the programmatic banners, which we also offer programmatic banner advertising across the web and on social.
Yeah. But what's interesting about the program you have is I've done this with a client where we've pulled the list. We'll send an email out to these people, and then we're also able to display an ad up in front of those people, but also anyone else who matches the similar, selection criteria. Yep. And why that's important is because your list gets so specific with those technology used, which I think is one of my favorite selects that you have, for my clients. Right. We're able to really supply the banners up in front of people versus what we were talking about before, going up to every, let's say, CEO in a pharmaceutical manufacturing, company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it provides that nurture and that reminder effect, right? So you've done the email, and then, you maybe were interested, you were on the fence, maybe you were busy, you were looking at the HTML, and then the phone rang, so you didn't get back to it right away.
Yeah. Think about our
and then you see a banner. Yeah, exactly. And then you see a banner and you go, oh, right. Yeah. I wanted to get back to that. And you could either click on the banner or go back to the email, or, it really rounds out the campaign as opposed to just a one-off, which you and I have talked about a million times. And I know you've done loads of podcasts about it. You can't do one anymore, right? It's not a one and done.
No, because people are researching more than they ever did, and our lives are too busy. People are getting so many. And that's why, direct marketing really, when it's done properly, can be a great channel, and also to complement it with others, whether it is, social posting or different things. Together, it could be a great cohesive way to do a marketing strategy.
And let's face it, the biopharm industry is so big because they're so busy, right? It's not like they're all just sitting around, waiting for the next COVID to hit, God forbid. It's that they're dramatically busy. But having said that, think about it. They need products and services that are specific to help them do their jobs. Like you said, they need, and again, this gets into, I think, a little bit of the part you and I don't, because we're not scientists. I could throw a whole bunch of words out there, but there's all that instrumentation, there's all those manufacturing, there's clean room supplies, there's laboratory supplies, there's, it really is almost, a world unto itself. It is. You can't compare biopharm to a lot of other industries because there are, it's very, I don't know what word I'm trying to use. It's scary almost that you have to be exact. It has to be clean. It has to be perfect. It has to be, the information and the products that they're buying have to be spot on for what they're doing. It can't be close.
I went to the Interfect show. I've gone to it a few times. And the first time in there, and I hate to use the term again, it blew my mind.
Right.
Going by and looking at the different pieces of equipment or the different services that the companies offer, like you're saying about clean room. And it just amazes me that there's a whole side that I never really thought of until I went to those conferences. Yep. And you see those pieces of equipment, and the gloves going inside.
Right.
Things, or even the, filling of the bottles, the pharmaceutical products. It's just, like you said, there's many facets to the industry, and people have to realize that. And if they're marketing their products or services, they have to reach that specific area versus just going across the board.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Even, and really every level, right? Packaging, distribution is different, right? Logistics is different. Shipping is different, and of course they have to ship. You don't think about the fact that, like, all the vaccines, right? That, for instance, just to use an example, that came into the country, or, had to get shipped from, Moderna or from Pfizer to get out to the different markets. This is not just a huck it in a box and throw it on a truck, right? It's, specialized packaging, specialized transportation, specialized shipping. Exactly. And just like any industry, everyone within it needs to find out about products and services. So you have two choices, right? You either go out and do all the legwork yourself, you Google search, you maybe make some phone calls or whatever, or you're lucky enough to get a promotion for something that you need, and an email comes across your desk, or a banner comes across your across your screen, and it's perfect for what you're looking for. But the other thing I think to consider in this industry, even maybe a little bit more than others, is it's also timely, right? So you get something about packaging, but you're not quite there yet. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing. It doesn't mean, oh, I got this email, but I don't need it right now. I would bet you those scientists have folders upon folders of, I'm going to need this at some point. I'm going to need my packaging, but I'm not there. It's crazy.
Area. That whole clinical trial area, that's going to be at a certain time that they're going to need, the different things.
So some of it's timing, and the fact that you made a promotion or a direct mail piece that has longevity, right? Have you made an email that person's going to hang on to until they need it? And do you have the patience as a supplier, as a vendor, as the person actually performing the direct marketing,
right,
to wait until your piece is needed, and to continue to just shoot out a couple reminders, run a couple programs, just so that when that contact is ready, you're the one that's in front of them.
Doing their branding and keeping your company top of mind.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big proponent with my clients, don't always send out sales promotions, send out educational pieces, show, like we talked about before, just show that you care and you understand their space. For instance, like you just said, what if you sent out a promotion that said, I know you may not be, especially if they have an answer to your last, 3 or 4 emails, maybe you say, I understand maybe you're not in this space right now, but please, these articles I found interesting. When you're ready, we're here for you. Just to put yourself in their shoes, that it's not something they need right now, but, think of us when you're ready.
Right. And that's, I think, where some of the collateral comes into play, right? The white papers.
Yes.
Or, the different pieces of collateral that has that longevity, to be able to have it, hold on, you hold on to it. Right. So, I may have a folder of PDF white papers, or of, that get in there. And yes, a lot of times people are reluctant because they know then they've given their name, or they've given their email address. And yes, in the industry that we're in, it is all about contacts, and it's about leads, and we all know it. But I think if you're providing effective, useful, top of mind information, people don't mind giving out their information, right? They don't mind giving you their email. They may have to say no 3 times before you may get that yes on the 4th.
I'm working with a client right now who's in a very specific area. He's in it's different industry altogether. He's in the heat treat area, but I'm even recommending, they did one mentioning a subscription, but this next one, it's going to be ungated material. So, we're going to give, 5 links to different articles we think these people would be interested in. They don't have to give up anything. They don't have to give their email or anything, but it's just to show that they're such a thought leader in their space. It's a magazine they really need to be part of if they're in that heat treat space. So,
and I think that's important. I think the more that you create partnerships, and, like you and I have, right? The more that you create partnerships with your potential customers, the more you're going to be looked at as a reputable leader in the market that someone's going to want to come back to.
And that you're staying current. You're a
Yep.
reputable thought leader in the market, but you're staying current. And that's what's great about the Informa conferences. And I didn't realize this. I never realized that you didn't have Informa people
Yeah,
speak.
no, none. We may moderate, and have a
Right.
panel of industry experts, but there is never, ever an Informa speaker. It is 100% unbiased.
See, that's
Yeah. And we do try to the best of our ability to, reinforce to speakers as well, please, this is not commercial. You may be from Pfizer, you can speak about your research because that's why you're here, but not about why you should work with Pfizer instead of, Moderna.
Right. Okay.
And normally, 99+% of the time, we do survey delegates after the events, and we are able to keep it unbiased, and keep it real, and keep it to just an engaged research audience. And having said that, one thing that I think is important as well, and speaks to using a qualified list as opposed to compiled, not even just mine, but any qualified list.
That was my next question for you.
Yeah. Is the fact that, these people are engaged. They know what they're talking about. They're on the list for a particular reason. Whereas compiled, you have no idea how they were put on the list. Right. It could be one of those, what do they call? I always forget what they call it. When they sweep the internet.
Yeah.
And they literally just grab anybody of a particular title and put them on a list.
Yes.
With no intent, right? I guess that is a keyword.
Yeah, they harvest the data from different.
Places. Yeah.
I've seen it where they do it where it's conferences and they'll say, oh, we've got this attendee list for this conference coming up. And they go through and they read the description that every conference company does about who should attend. They take that and then they go and they gather all the people together and then they go around and start marketing it as the attendees list, but it's not the attendees list.
It's funny. I put that.
Yeah.
The question that you asked me, I put that as what do you see as the largest downside in your industry? Yes, I did. I put exactly what you just said, because I can't even tell you the amount of times that people within my own organization outside, so people at Informa, but not within my team, not within my, the marketing element.
Yeah.
Amy, oh my goodness, somebody stole our list. Somebody has this. I just got this promotion that says they have the bioprocess internet. And I said, stop. They do not.
Yeah.
They don't. They've harvested based on the who should attend box of the event. And they've just tried to build a compiled list together and it doesn't work.
Right.
It doesn't work.
Anyone who's listening to us should know that there is no way a conference company is going to let their attendee list out, especially prior to the event.
Right.
Or they're never going to just give it up because it's a valuable asset for these conference companies. And that's where people don't realize, because I've had the clients who say, I want to buy a list. And I'm like, well, first of all, if you want to buy a list, that's a different realm than when you're renting quality lists from list owners. Because just like anything, if it's a quality thing to them, they're not going to just let it go.
No. In fact, I would, and I think, a lot of people in Informa would agree, our assets at Informa are the people first and the database is second. Because that's our product.
It should be. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's why, some people will say we won't, blast to a list. Like I believe you guys do it. Other publishers do it. Conference companies, they'll say, no, we're only doing a certain amount of blasts, or this individual is only going to get one email blast every 3 days or once a week or whatever it is, because they've got to protect their subscribers and their conference companies.
Right. And when you think about the fact that we're using it for marketing as well, we have to fit everyone in, right? So we have to fit a marketer who maybe is marketing one of the biopharm conferences of our own in with someone who has rented an email blast. We want both to do equally well, right? We want, obviously we want the marketer, but we don't want any external person to fail either.
Right.
So, it all has to be, we put them on calendars and we are able to dedupe across list and between list. And, if Donna is on both lists, we make sure that she only appears on one at the final send. And, I work all kinds of with quantities and
Yeah.
et cetera,
Yeah.
because we also do get rushes and we want to accommodate that as well. If somebody
Right.
says, for whatever reason, I can't stick to the 3 to 5 day turnaround, I need to send this tomorrow. It has to go tomorrow. We have a lot of technology behind the actual sends that can help that list get out tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, I think you did a Asian blast for me that started after 5 o'clock on a work day, and we got it out and it hit that Asian market first thing in the morning, which was key for me because, as you mentioned, some things are very time sensitive and have to go. And, I do a lot with the business auction clients, and that can be very time sensitive at times. So
Absolutely.
So now if someone was going to go out and they say they're going to get an email list, are there any warnings you would tell them or things that you would tell them to look for?
Well, the first is like I said, I literally had that as my first danger zone. If you get a blind email from someone you've never worked with before who says, "Hey, right, I've got this conference list. Come on over and use it." They do not have the conference list.
Yes.
They have a compiled, harvested list of people that could be lookalikes, could be of the profile. Who knows? Maybe one or two of them are attending, but it is not the delegate list.
I have to tell you, I have followed up on a few of those emails that I've received over the years, and you'll laugh because I'll call them up because I'm just curious how far they're going to push it, that these are really the attendees. And one of my first questions all the time is, are these opted in? And one time a person came back and goes, "What do you mean by opted in?" And I'm like, okay, so
So I'm guessing no.
Yeah, that answers the
right.
question.
Yeah. Well, and it's crazy to me. But that I think would be the second, right? Is compiled lists for the US market. You could send them, right? I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. I think your engagement rates and your response rates are going to be low, but because of the can spam regulation and the way data privacy laws work in the United States outside of California, you could use a compiled list. And, I think if a list owner, if that's what we want to call them, or this person peddling the list says that it's compliant for opt-in, it might be because the US laws are not quite as tight. But if someone said that to me as far as a European list goes, or some of the specific countries in Asia, absolutely not.
Well, Germany is, I think, double opt-in, or sometimes
correct. Yeah.
At times, so you got to be very careful with that. I do use compiled lists at times when I need to fill a certain section, but I only go to compilers that I know they've asked for compliance and asked that people opt into it, and they've vetted every record to make sure it's in the space. So it's a great way to fill in on the side, but you've got to be very, very careful which compiled files you might use, because like you just said, you could end up blacklisting your company and your domain. And
and that's the problem, right? I mean, some of these places like Germany, they don't care that it was an accident. They don't care that, I didn't realize that Germany had a double opt-in and the company told me the data was fine.
And they shut you down.
Right, exactly. If you've sent the message, you're the one on the hook. It is not that data compiler company, so yeah, absolutely. And I think that to fill in gaps, and it's really, it's, the old adage, you get what you pay for. It even applies to now. If you need, and I'm sure that parts of my team would be like, "Oh, Amy, stop." But if you need to blanket send 1 million emails, right? You need a compiled list. Go out and get a compiled list of exactly the person that you think you're going to hit. You're not going to pay a huge CPM, right? And you're not going to get a huge response.
No.
But if you've sent 1 million, maybe if you get a 0.25% click-through rate on 1 million records, that could be decent. You really have to weigh, what are your goals? What are your KPIs? What are you looking to do? But if you want engagement by people in a very specific niche, where you can only get it by direct response, we call it, you and I both call it self-reported data, right? It is not someone harvesting Donna Peterson's record, EVP on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
It's someone who knows that Donna Peterson filled out something or spoke to someone and physically gave, I am Donna Peterson, EVP of World Innovators.
Right.
100% fact, that's who she is.
Right.
Not, did she update her LinkedIn profile within the past year?
Mhm.
Where did we get her name from? And trying to fill in the gaps. Because yes, some will be right. You and I will both tell mailers that some will be right.
Right.
And some will be wrong.
Right. It does come down to, like you said, the quality and the quantity. And when you are trying to reach specific niche areas, which I think, I'm always in, you really have to kind of research all the different lists that are out there, find the right ones that match your target audience. And like you just said, meet your objectives,
Right.
what you're trying to do. I'm a big proponent on definitely concentrating on your branding, getting the message out to the right people to show you are thought leaders, and then also hope, getting them to buy. Because at the end of the day, yes, marketing, but we're all about the sale. We need to, sell to.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you and I have talked about this. I think that digitally and technologically speaking, we are heading down that lead gen trail, and every company wants leads. That's what they all want. And I get it, and you get it. And, helping a client put together a lead gen campaign or a lead generating e-blast or what have you is possible and is sometimes worthwhile. But as we were just speaking about with longevity, clients are not always interested in what you have to offer this very second.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And if you skip the branding and you skip, it's marketing 101.
Yes.
Marketing 101 is you need to have your brand in somebody's head. That's why jingles exist.
Yes.
That's
yes.
why
Yeah,
billboards
you and I talked
exist.
about that in our last podcast.
Yeah.
About the jingles. Yes.
Yeah. It is. It's a fact. It's a fact that you and I will still remember a commercial we heard in the 90s.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it worked.
Yeah.
And kudos to whatever advertising agency or direct marketing person or promotional marketing individual put that together, because that's where, that's why logos, jingles, they're not there just to look pretty and sound cute.
Yes.
There's a psychological reason behind it, and it's marketing 101. And I think when you get too far down the lead gen rabbit hole, you forget marketing 101.
Yes, you do. You do. Yes, you do. So now I don't want to hold you much longer. My last question for you today is, so we talked a lot about the biopharma space, and obviously it started out with those statistics that just,
which are, yeah.
It's crazy how much it's going to grow. In less than 10 years, the one statistic was, and the other one was 2025. But what other industry do you feel will see rapid growth in?
It's hard to say. And I gave this actually a lot of thought over the past week since you and I, put this together. I think finance never goes away, right? I think, finance, it's a bit cyclical depending on the politics, depending on other, other climate type areas, but people are always going to retire.
Yes.
Companies are always going to need more money, need financing, need venture cap. So not that one's growing, but I think that's one of the very steady industries to be in, and to market in would be that finance space. Tech, I think, evolves daily.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Cybersecurity, everything now is
cloud,
with people
everything.
Working remotely and not trying to keep everyone's data safe. Yes, that's a very
hot. Web services,
yeah.
And we have, which I know a lot of companies doing, is it's a very nice way to look at it. I think you can look at tech as a vertical, and you can be in just the tech space, or you can look at tech horizontally. And what do biopharm companies need to do to keep their information secure? What do banks need to do? What do, shipping companies need to do? What do retail companies need to do? And so I think tech is very multifaceted, and there are some companies that I think will enter the tech space and leave rather quickly, like in years and years ago, the whole .com.
Yes.
There were .coms, and we even called them .coms, and they were everywhere. And then the good ones, really engaged and became the ones you went after. So I think tech will always be, a space that's really vital to be in. And then I think honestly, more horizontal markets. I think that if we look not necessarily always in a vertical industry, but marketing and strategy and, those types, sustainability, right? Diversity and inclusion, those titles across industry. So I think instead of picking another industry, I would say it's really horizontal. That growth is going to be horizontal.
Right. You and I have seen that with, Harvard, I work with Harvard Kennedy School, whether it's policymakers or it's diversity, like you just mentioned, or climate control, even, they might be doing that across several different industries or verticals.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Back to the tech side, I have a gentleman who I'm helping who he's in the tech side, but he wants to reach only lawyers because it's all that cybersecurity space. So he found his specific niche to be, law firms, large law firms, and helping them. So it's just, I don't know. I find a lot of interesting industries to be interesting. And biopharmaceutical space, as we just exploded with COVID and the vaccine and trying to get it produced fast. And then the supply chain, all that was involved. And when I read those statistics, I just had to reach out to you and get your viewpoint on that. So
yeah, absolutely. And you know what? It's this is going to sound a little corny, but I've always gotten a little bit of a thrill out of the fact that I'm at least on the periphery of the biopharmaceutical space, right? Yes, we all know it's about business. We all know that, the pharmaceutical companies are for profit. And, I know there's a lot of people who will say all they care about is money or all they, whatever. But I do believe that especially when you get to the research element, right? The clinical trial, the research, they're out to help people. They're out to cure diseases, right? And it's fascinating to me. There was nothing more thrilling to me that when they were doing the different COVID vaccines, right? And the Moderna, Pfizer was a specific type, right? It was the RNA, whereas the Johnson & Johnson was a different type. And then I actually knew what they were talking about, right? It was very cool. But on the flip side, they're companies just like any other.
Yeah.
And we need to help them market to them. As I've said, Informa is non-commercial from a media standpoint, which allows us to then offer up these great lists and, great opportunities to partner with other companies to help them reach their goals as well.
Right. Good. Good. All right. I don't want to hold you any more today, but I really do thank you for coming and stopping by and talking to me.
My pleasure.
I'm sure we'll talk soon.
Yes, we absolutely will. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the World Innovators Podcast. For more information about today's topic, email us at dpeterson@worldinnovators.com or call 860-210-8088. And please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a future episode.